meeting with Human Services Advisory Board. I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:17 p.m. Thank you everybody for attending. And can we do a roll call real quick?
So Clayton Carlisle,
Here.
Allison Duplichin is not here. Sharif Cassis,
Here.
Monica Gonzalez is not here. Joanne Parsons,
Here.
Gloria Quinn,
Here.
Courtney Welch is not here, and Mariana Zamora is not here. So with four, you have four.
So with 4 out of 7 voting members in attendance, we do have a quorum, which is required to be 4 or more. So next, we're going to move to citizens' comment period. Staff, is anyone present in person or online or on the phone that wants to speak during the citizens' comment period?
So I did hear from one person specifically wanting to speak in the citizens comment period. And I don't see her on the list, so she hasn't joined us online. So I guess I would ask you if you're able to raise your hand, if you want to speak now at the citizen comment period, let me know. If not, we'll just keep going and you'll get to speak during the public hearing.
So anybody online that want to speak?
Is anybody here wanting to speak citizen comment period? So we can move on.
So next, we're going to move to the minutes. We will not consider approval by motion of the February 16, 2023 meeting minutes. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay.
I second.
Okay, so the motion was made by Clayton Carlisle, and then the second was Joanne or Gloria?
Joanne.
Joanne. Okay, so the second was Joanne Parsons. Does the board have any discussion or corrections regarding those minutes?
No.
Perfect. So all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? No. Okay. We're rolling right along. Okay. So now we're moving to public hearings. We will now receive a staff presentation and hold a public hearing to obtain the views of citizens on the proposed funding and application process for the allocation of approximately $500,000 in the 2023-2024 City of San Marcos Human Services Grants. Carol, you may start your presentation when you need to.
Okay, I'm getting it set up. Okay, it's blocking me.
You can drag it back more.
I don't know how to drag the thing. Okay. Okay. Okay, sorry about the delay. I'm Carol Griffith. I'm the Housing and Community Development Manager for the City of San Marcos. And this evening, I'll present information on the funding and application process for human services grants made by the city. Then the Human Services Advisory Board will hold a public hearing to receive comments on it. I will also be asking board members for their input on several elements. Chapter 2, Division 9 of the City of San Marcos Code of Ordinances provides for the purpose and activities of the Human Services Advisory Board. The board consists of 8 city residents appointed by the City Council, 7 of whom are voting members. The board's purpose is to administer the application process for the human services funding that is set aside in the city's budget each year, usually about $500,000. Okay. Annually, applications are accepted from human service agencies for service to San Marcos residents. The board members review all the applications in detail and receive a presentation from each applicant agency. The purpose of the funding per the Code of Ordinances is the development and enhancement of human services in the city. This year, once again, approximately $500,000 is expected from the city's general fund to be allocated to human services grants. All applicants for the funding must be human services agencies, and the funding must serve San Marcos residents. The bylaws of the board define a human service agency as an organization that seeks to improve the quality of their clients' lives by providing, facilitating, or recommending support for an array of basic social, physical health, housing, and mental health services to needy clients in the community. This slide shows the timeline for the application process. And the board's review of the applications to create a recommendation for funding allocation that goes to city council. By June 23rd, the 2024 application will be available. It's due July 31st by 5 p.m. An optional applicant workshop will be held June 29th to walk through the application requirements and provide a public opportunity for questions. The board will receive all applications in August, and they begin evaluating 6 at a time each week, beginning in September. Each week, 6 agencies will provide an approximately 5-minute presentation to the board, followed by a question and answer period for the board members for about 5 to 10 minutes. And what we're planning to do this year is make the 5-minute presentation a little more flexible. So you'll have a total of 15 minutes. Sometimes people go a little bit over on the presentation or over on the questions. So we'll just keep it to 15 minutes per agency. In late October and early November, the board discusses all applications and creates a recommendation for allocation of funding. Staff will present this recommendation to City Council December 5th, and City Council makes the final decision on which agencies are awarded funding and how much. Now I will go into some details about the funding restrictions and the application process. So eligible expenses include direct expenses of running a human services program, as well as overhead such as facilities and utilities. Specific types of expenses that are not eligible, however, are fundraising, client incentives, furnishings, and vehicles. In addition, some funding restrictions have been set aside or set by the City Council. Funding must serve San Marcos residents unless the program is school-based, in which case it can serve anyone within the San Marcos Consolidated Independent School District boundary. The funding requested cannot be more than 50% of the total agency budget, and it cannot fund more than 20% of any full-time position. The program must have been in existence for at least 2 years. Programs that have been in existence at least 2 years elsewhere that are new to San Marcos are eligible. This requirement is simply to prevent funding brand new or startup programs. And so some of that is new this year. Board members use the answers to questions in the application to evaluate each application according to a scoring system. The goal is to run a strategic and meaningful competitive process that selects programs that will have the most impact on the highest priority needs in this community. These criteria are spelled out in more detail within the application form. And here are the categories that are in the form. You'll see the details in the application, but it's community need and justification, implementation readiness, impact, community support, and council priorities. Board members also score the applications according to possible risk of funding not fulfilling its purpose or ending before serving recipients. So here are the categories for the risk assessment: program complexity, experience running the program, other funding support, etc. As you probably know, the evaluation criteria are the main emphasis of the scoring. And then the risk assessment, we just score everybody and then come up with, are they low, medium, or high risk? Now I'm going to bring up the application and talk through some possible changes that I would like to make. And this is kind of a presentation for the board, but I wanted to be sure and go over it this evening because we're going to have to get the application out June 23rd. So I'll try to make it. I don't know how to make this go away. There we go. Okay, I hope that y'all can see that pretty well. I feel like it's not big enough. There, that's better. Okay. This is the application, and I just wanted to point out a few things, especially to the board, to talk about in our discussion period after the public hearing about possibly slimming down the application a little bit. This year, I tried to make the application correspond really well to the scoring criteria. So the questions are organized by the topic or the category of the evaluation criteria. I have highlighted in yellow some specific questions that I think we can get rid of. I'd like to simplify the application as best we can. So it may be a little awkward to try to discuss this level of detail, but I wanted to give it a shot because I was reviewing this the other day and just felt like we needed to talk it through. So for example, for community need and justification, we could end up with just describe in detail the need for the program. Has the need been increasing? And then talk to us a little bit about your direct clients, unduplicated direct clients. Not necessarily having them go into indirect clients and then also income eligibility for the program. I feel like we could cut that and not lose any impactful data. Implementation, I'd like to cut it down to just be 3 questions. How will the funds be used? What outcomes? And then if funding's not available, what's the minimum that you could use to still be able to run the program? I know that was a specific question that came up last year. For impact and cost effectiveness, I'd like to just cut the question, what has your organization done in the past 2 years to raise different funding? I feel like we don't really get a lot of information from that question.
We should, but we don't.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about it and see if y'all want to leave these in, that's fine. Community support, I'd like to cut, how's the board of directors selected and how often does the board meet? And then this volunteers question, because we have another question somewhere else, up here, somewhere here about volunteers. So I'm throwing it out there. We can talk about it in more detail once we've opened the floor for the board to talk through things. And I'm going to go back to the presentation. Okay, sorry. Okay, next point. We had a hard time last year. I don't think anybody will disagree. So I wanted to go over in specificity some decision considerations for the board. And this is about the application and funding process. So I felt like it was appropriate to go ahead and go over them now instead of waiting until the board orientation in August. So because the decision process was particularly confusing and controversial last year, I'm going to explicitly describe some considerations that will be emphasized to the board in their decision-making process this year. As mentioned, the goal is to select programs that will have the most impact on the highest priority needs of the community. Scoring was introduced a few years ago in order to create a more objective and transparent system of choosing funding recipients. The board will attempt to prioritize applications through the description of the need for the program in the community, so applicants should be sure and make a strong case for the need. In addition, the board will have to choose which programs have the most impact on those needs. Impact can be felt in the community from programs that either serve people in depth over time or would serve a great many people for a very specific need. So there can be different types of impact, but we will be looking at that. In addition to those considerations, the board will be encouraged not to fund all applicants. Over the past few years, this has split limited funding among more and more applicants, creating a situation where such low funding per program may limit impact to the community instead of making meaningful contributions to the ability of the program to function. In addition, staff will be reminding the board to concentrate on the formal scoring system as the mechanism for making the decision on which programs should receive funding. Assigning percentages across the board or referring to personal passions in the decision-making process will be discouraged. The board members are representatives of the broader community, and their recommendations should be focused on the greater community impact as they make the difficult choice of which programs to fund out of so many worthy and useful programs. Finally, all applicants should be considered equal for consideration of this funding. Some programs have been around for years and seem to be well established and well funded, and others are newer or smaller and may seem to have fewer resources. This should not be taken into account as part of the decision. Every human services agency and program must continually work to ensure they have adequate funding by applying for grants and raising funds from donors. The consideration for funding is how this particular 500,000 should impact the San Marcos community, not whether the agency is perceived to need the funding. They are all in need and are all equal applicants in this process. The board will be encouraged to score and rank the application and then use that scoring to decide which agencies will receive funding. With that introduction, I will turn the meeting back over to the chair to open the public hearing. The purpose of the public hearing is to obtain the views of citizens on the proposed funding and application process. I'm happy to answer any questions, and this concludes my presentation. Stop sharing.
Okay, so now we're gonna open for a public hearing to receiving comments. So if anybody here present or online wants to discuss anything, then the floor is open for you.
I guess I think one of the issues. we're
Oh,
having-
and y'all, before you start, please do state your name, and then if you want to, also the agency that you're representing.
Okay, yeah, my name is Joe Castillo. I'm here representing Nosotros La Gente. And we have two programs that the Human Service Advisor supports is the SHE program, which has been around for a number of years, and then we started the CODES program. And I think one of the issues we ran into last year was the fact that the funding that we got the year before, I mean, it was cut more than half of what we got, which is kind of, and not, we weren't the only agency that was affected by that. And so I think that's when everybody started screaming about, oh, we'll be able to provide less service, even though the services that are required are increasing. So I mean, you have X number of dollars that the city councils are allocated. And so, and I think the other thing too, is that before the board used to interview the agencies before they actually did the presentation, which you were able maybe to get additional information that you normally couldn't get in that 5-minute presentation. So that may be something the board may want to think about doing, whether you split it between the different board members, or if you have a set of questions that you can, provide to the agencies before the actual presentation, we may be able to give you some additional information that way that is part of the actual presentation. So, but as one of the agencies that y'all are helping, we definitely appreciate the funds that you were able to allocate to our programs, and hopefully continue to have that in the future.
And I would ask if you're online, if you're able to raise your hand, that would be great. I feel like I think I'll go ahead and make it where everybody can talk, because I'm worried that we're missing people.
I think you're muting him.
They should be coming in mute. So you have a hand up.
Carol, can you hear me?
Yes, just 1 second, Warner. Gloria, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, can board members make input?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay, well then I'll shut up. Okay,
Sorry. No, just the public.
all right.
Okay. So it was Warner Davis. Warner, yeah. Go ahead, Warner. Warner, did you want to say something? I thought it was Warner. Yeah, it was.
Carol, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I can see the boardroom and the council members. And I can see Chris and Gary, very good. But I can't see myself, so. But all the things that you were highlighting in yellow, I take it you wanted to remove from the application?
Correct.
Good. So I concur with that recommendation. From my point of view.
So you have 3 minutes. Did you want to say anything else specifically?
You want to talk about our need?
Say again, talk loud.
Oh, you have 3 minutes to talk about the application process and the funding. So
I
that's
thought,
what
I thought the way it was ultimately resolved last year was good. I thought we needed to spread the numbers out a little bit, so we saw some differentiation in the scoring. So that wasn't, which I thought made it difficult in the beginning, when everything was, close. I don't really have any other comments to make.
Okay. Any other comments in person?
Can we talk about specific need?
it's really supposed to be about the application process. That's all.
Just the application.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I think the need comes in when you do the presentation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody online that would like to do any public comments? Okay, perfect. So thank you for participating, those that did. We're going to close the public hearing. We're going to move on to action items. So our first action item is to consider HSAB Resolution 2023-02R, electing a chair and a vice chair through March 31st, 2024. This evening, we will elect a new chair and vice chair for the board. You can feel free to nominate yourself or someone else for these positions. Do we have any nominations for the position of chair?
We should have done some, sorry, y'all, we should have done a little bit of board discussion after the public hearing. So can we back up, Del? I'm sorry about that. And I didn't put it on the agenda, but we need to have an opportunity for the board to discuss what I presented.
I think that's when Gloria wanted to talk.
Yeah, so Gloria, did you want to talk about what I presented? I also would like input on the application if nobody else has something to say. And Gloria, you're muted.
Yeah, I agree with most of the data questions you want to eliminate. Can't recall off the top of my head the ones that I just as soon leave in, but they were towards the bottom, the last couple. Well, I just wanted to say that a lot of the, and I don't know if please tell me if this is what happened. I lost pictures.
Sorry,
Huh? I don't care. I'll keep on talking.
yeah,
So, a lot of the agencies were disappointed that their funding got cut, some pretty severely, but it's a obvious issue. Oh, thank you for putting that back up on the screen. That, the year before we had $1 million and last year we had 500. Something had to give. That's that's pretty cut and dry to me. We would love to have been as generous as we were the year before, but we couldn't do it. So, all right. Oh yeah, I just wanted to, how is the board selected? I think that's kind of important. How often does the board meet? I think that's important because that speaks to, the organization's, how it's run, how often they get together and discuss and things of relevance. If they only meet every blue moon or they're only appointed by, appointed in ways that might not be, what's the word I'm looking for? Ideal. Like, well, I'm not gonna single out anyone, but, and I think the number of volunteers in the various organizations is important. And how many hours they spend. Agencies that use volunteers often can make their money go further. Of course, it's way problematic because they're volunteers. If you're not paying somebody, you can't guarantee they're going to show up. And I kind of like the question of what is your organ, although usually you get some, standard response. We're going to go out and, ask for more money in various different ways. But what has your agency done in the past 2 years to raise different funding for the program?
You want to see that one?
Yeah. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay.
What's
Everything else is list title of each position for which funding is requested and the activities associated with those positions.
And my point there is that now we're restricted, the board is restricted from funding any more than 20% of a full-time position. They can fund whole part-time positions, but the amount of funding that we're giving to people does not cover even close to a position. And so I feel like if we can cut detail from the application process, we would be better off doing that to make it less onerous to apply for the funding.
Okay, so my thinking is that if they don't mention how much funding would be used for a different position, and it can be multiple positions. So 20% of 4 or 5 positions adds up to a considerable amount of money. And if they don't mention it, then how do you know that it's not being utilized in some indirect way for funding a paid position?
Well, they'll have to submit a budget. So we'll have a budget showing that they're going to use it for staff. I was just trying to cut down on the level of detail they had to provide about the staff.
Yeah. That, I don't know, that to me, that's not a lot of detail, and it's kind of important. And you want to cut out the any matching funds or other grants that they get?
Right, because we never, I mean, we really literally never have an agency that's using these funds as matching funds.
No, probably not, because they wouldn't qualify to begin with. But other grants,
So what it's also a really confusing question. What it's asking is, if you're going to use Human Services Advisory Board funds as matching funds, then you have to identify the source and amount of the primary grants that you're using to fund the program. But nobody ever uses these as matching funds because they don't even know if they're going to get them.
okay,
So
maybe I don't understand, but I'm looking at the second part of that. Identify source and amount of primary grants.
But that's
So-
only,
If they get a grant elsewhere, which they should, because we can't be the only funding source, obviously, otherwise they wouldn't qualify. Identifying the amount and source of other grants that they get, I think is pretty important. And one of the things we got into a discussion with is some of the larger agencies had some serious money coming in from elsewhere.
and that's exactly the point I was trying to make, that we cannot consider that. Like, all these agencies are local agents. I mean, like, they're not all local, but they all need to be considered as equal. We can't assume that because an agency has more money coming in, that they don't have as much need. We were criticized for that. And it's true, because we would have to know details about their program and the number of people they serve and the type of service and everything. We'd have to have extensive knowledge about their program in order to really compare, you know, okay, you're getting $3 million. Are you using $3 million? I mean, we get their financials, we can see it. But just because they're getting $3 million doesn't mean they have less need of a human services advisory board grant. It
No,
can't
but
be-
if they are getting $3 million and some of them more, if they are getting $3 million, then, you know, a more local agency that doesn't have that kind of budget, doesn't that kind of resources, you know, would, you know, $10,000 from us make a difference to them? You know, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's not as big of a need. Of course, there's as big of a need for some of these agencies, but you know, I'll just throw it out there because it's big and it's familiar, but Centacor, you know, Austin Habitat for Humanity. I mean, they've got a budget that's really big. And a couple of the larger, more lucrative agencies are new, were new last year. So that's the only point I'm trying to make. I don't know if anybody agrees with me. I'd like some input.
But I'm trying to tell you that the city is telling you don't consider that because we are trying to consider all applications as equal. And what we want you to focus on is the service they're providing. Does San Marcos need that service more than other services? Which is a terrible question. Like, we'd love to fund everything, right? But we need to focus on finding like what's the most impact for the most need in San Marcos. And it might be a well-funded and highly established agency, and it might be a small, tiny local agency that's providing for that specific need that we need as a city.
So it can, and if I reading part of the criteria right, this funding is specifically used for San Marcos, not just all of Hayes County.
Right.
Well, then wouldn't that eliminate some of the really important ones like the Hayes County Food Bank?
Well, no, because they can track the amount of funding that we give to them is less than what they spend on the city of San Marcos residents easily. So
Wait a minute, the amount of money we give to them is less than what they spend on San Marcos citizens.
citizens, so
Absolutely.
Why is that a good thing? I don't understand.
clearly they are able to justify in their financial reports or in the way they spend their funding that they are only spending these funds on San Marcos residents.
They do?
We do separate by city.
So it's a line item.
We separate by every city and or even extra jurisdictional territory. But we know how many of our people are from San Marcos, how many of our people are from Buda, how many people, and even the whole $500,000.
Oh, no, I saw that breakdown. I saw that breakdown, but, okay. I don't know. I think I made my point. Obviously you don't have to agree with me, but
My understanding of the question,
Yeah.
I don't mean to be speaking out of turn.
no, I appreciate
They
your
They're not asking
feedback.
for all other grants because all other grants would be in our financials.
Mhm.
They're only asking for primary grants, which is a different thing. That's only if matching funds come up. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's only if these are going to be used as matching funds. I'm really,
It's not all grants.
Yeah. we're gonna
Okay,
do that one.
all right. Is that the top? Are there other ones up there? There's other ones, right? Yeah.
So this is more about the clients. In this, direct clients are the ones that are specifically directly served by the funding. Indirect clients are like referrals and that kind of thing. I think that's kind of blurry. So
It's
I'm
kind of what?
blurry, like,
Lori, oh, okay.
yeah, like
Um,
we're for direct service. So I'm thinking we could delete references to indirect clients and then also like how people go about finding clients. Like that doesn't have anything to do with, to me, that doesn't have anything to do with whether or not they need the funding. Like they're bringing clients saying that they need the funding.
Okay.
Yeah, well, these I don't see any.
Does the program depend upon income or any other determination of eligibility? If yes, please attach a copy. I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, I think we should delete it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, okay, I'm good with that. I mean, the first category is the most nebulous. It takes a lot more thinking to apply it to the point system.
Mhm.
Anything you can do to simplify the point system, I'm all for it.
I hear you.
I know.
I've stuck with the categories and then I had to add a council priority category.
Or not simplify it, but just make it a little more clear.
Yeah.
Which is what you're trying to do there. I appreciate that.
Do we have any other comments from board members on the my recommendations to delete the things that are in yellow? Oh, Clayton, go ahead.
Just because my background is in marketing analytics, I just thought that the bullet B under questions there. I know you mentioned, Carol, that it doesn't really have anything to do with whether or not they need the funding, but I do think it's good auxiliary information when we're considering that and reading the applications, just personally.
Okay,
Yeah.
That was the only 2 cents I had to add in on these. Other than that, I'm all about simplifying the paperwork.
Here.
Joanna, any other input or anything?
okay. Thank you, y'all. I'll tidy this up and we'll be publishing the application on the 23rd. Okay, sorry. So back to you and the action items.
Yeah, so we're handing out nominees for a chair.
Okay, yes.
I'll go ahead and nominate Sharif Cassis.
Okay,
We have a second for that motion.
I second.
yeah, they don't want to do it like that.
At least you're here. Sometimes you get nominated president when you're not there.
Okay, so now we'll hold the vote and we'll hold the vote for the position of chair by roll call. So when your name is called, please state actually, we don't have to state the name, since I'm the only nominee. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we're gonna hold nomination for the position of vice chair. Any discussion on here for nominations?
I nominate Gloria Quinn for vice chair.
I'll second that nomination. Okay, so Gloria Quinn, any other nominations? Okay, so we'll have a voice vote. All those in favor of Gloria Quinn being the vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries, all the ayes, 4 ayes, no nays. Action item number 2. Actually, hold on. Oh, this is still action item number 1. The next the board will consider HSAB resolution 2023-03R, setting the place and term for each board member. Is that? I thought that was said by council.
I can give some explanation. Let me share my screen again.
Yeah, because it says board members are appointed by city council for a 3-year term, and the terms are supposed to be staggered. So only a few of the board members are up for reappointment at any given time. However, the staggering of positions has become obscured over the years, and the mayor and the city clerk have requested the board reset the terms. Okay. So I, as chair, decided that we should just.
Oh, this was for Joanne. Joanne as chair decided
Yeah. Um,
that y'all should just discuss it and volunteer.
Okay.
Do you want me to explain?
Yeah,
You're kind of coming into this cold.
that's kind of strange.
I had prepped Joanne. Okay, so the deal is the mayor and the city clerk have are asking the Human Services Advisory Board to reset the terms and sort of put people in places. Because what has happened over the years, as people have come in midterm, it has become less and less clear whose position they're in. So we sort of just need to start over. And let's see. So what I've done on the screen is there's 8 places. 2 of them, the term will end next year, 3 of them the following year, and 3 of them the year after that. And so Joanne and I talked about this, expecting her to be the chair for this meeting. And because the city clerk told me to ask the chair how we're going to decide this. Anyway, so we decided we're just going to talk it out and put people in places. So basically, I need volunteers for who wants their term to end next year, and then the following year, and then the next one after that. And we'll just put everybody who's not here into a place. That's what I'm thinking. Does that make sense?
Clayton and Gloria, are you guys okay with serving until 2026?
Yes, I am personally.
Okay, because for simplicity's sake, myself, Clayton, and Gloria could just take the last bottom 3.
Yeah.
Gloria, how do you feel about serving until 2026?
Well, sir, to be honest with you, I'm not sure. That's,
You got 65 and 2024.
that's 3 years from now. What are my other options?
2024 and 2025,
Okay.
like whatever you want to do.
You can be a restricted free agent for 2024.
Yeah, just in case, I could be dead by then. I don't know.
I hope not.
God willing, not.
Okay, we're putting you in for 2024. Is that what you wanted?
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry, that's what I thought you said. Is that wrong?
Yeah, no, 2024 is good. A year, I can commit to a year.
I'll
Okay.
serve till 26.
Okay. perfect.
Okay,
Good for
Great.
you, woman.
yeah. Okay, and then I guess, oh, and Allison has resigned. So we can put her in the 2024 slot, yes. And then, these 3 can just go in the next one. I'm just randomly doing this. If y'all have any opinions, let me know.
I mean, that looks good. Do we have to vote on accepting this?
Yeah, I'm
let's-
just saying it. I could move by then, it's like, oof.
So I think, no, as long as everybody has spoken what they want to do, then I think we're good to go.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Carol, and thank you very much, everybody else that's wants you to serve. Information is going to be stored with the city clerk's office. If you wish to continue on the board at the time that your term is up, you just need to submit a new application in February of that year. Okay. So we're moving on to discussion items. Discussion item number 1. We're going to receive a staff presentation on the after action review conducted after the fiscal year 2023 application process. So Carol, go ahead.
Okay, let's see, the board specifically asked staff to send out a survey to all the agencies. And the same survey was sent to the board members. And so this was to wrap up after last year. We received 10 responses. The responses specifically have been sent to all the board members anonymous, like as anonymous. Most of the responses were submitted anonymously. We happened to get 2 through email, but we made them all anonymous for the purpose of this presentation and what I sent to the board, just so y'all know. So, I thought I would just share the main points, because the board had specifically asked for an after action review. We had the first question, what do you feel should have been done differently? And I tried to summarize a little bit. We did receive some of the same comments from several different respondents. So I guess I'll just read this kind of quickly. The scoring process and direction from city council should be followed. Board members who work for agencies who could receive funding should clearly exempt themselves from voting on those agencies. So I feel like maybe we just need to do a good job of abstaining loudly. Okay, scoring results should have been provided in more detail. That's something that staff could do. Since the board uses scores to rank applications, it does not make sense to allow appeals. And not everyone may know this, but the board has abolished the appeals process. So that will not happen this year. Continuing on that question, applicants scoring low should not receive more funding than applicants with higher scores. Funding every applicant is not sustainable. Programs should not be penalized for having other funding sources. Many clients receive free services due to inability to pay. Using percentages to fund will encourage applicants to pad their applications. Presentation time limit should be longer. We will make it longer. That was a specific response that we got from the board as well. So staff will stop implementing the 5-minute time limit so in a draconian manner, and we'll just give each agency about 15 minutes. Q&A after the presentation should have structured questions to be asked of each organization by the board. That's something we could talk about at y'all's orientation in August. Agencies should feel a part of the process instead of feeling challenged or adversarial in the presentation and Q&A. The whole process should be revamped. Complexity and demands of this application are extraordinarily high compared to the amount available for award. Okay, now we go into more of the positive, what should be kept the same. The application format, abilities to submit applications electronically, having agencies present to the board, ample time to submit applications, letters of support that can provide stories of how services assist people, having a neutral volunteer board reviewing the applications, making presentations over Zoom, and city council making the final decision. What worked well? Short list, but hopefully impactful. Receiving emails from the city about the opening of the application process, and we'll do that again. We send it out to every contact that we have. It's like 200 different agencies. Communication between city staff and agencies, having the scoring criteria up front in the application, and the process went smoothly until the award phase. What needs to be added to the application review process next year? We have received some. Yeah, it's you want to punch that button underneath the paper towels. We run a high class operation. Okay. We have received some feedback about having site visits again or tours. I would tell you that as city staff, we're not in favor of that because we feel like that provides information more to one board member than to the other. And so we prefer to have the agencies present to the board all at once so that everybody gets the same information.
I agree.
Okay, thanks. Following up, let's see, what needs to be added? Oh, follow-up emails to each agency with details on how the score was determined so they know how to improve their applications. They'd like the board to really look at the agency's 990s. Add points for agencies who are not primarily funded by a parent company. Should anything be done differently to market the process? Mostly no. Posting on the website and emailing potential applicants is sufficient. We do also put a formal notice in the paper of funding availability. Use social media, we could do that. Attend community coalitions to provide notice of funding availability. So I just wanted to share that with you. You're welcome to discuss anything you want. We are not planning to take every comment and, like, and do it, but it was, I think, valuable to hear back from people to get perspective.
Pretty much everything that you went over, we discussed, last year, or at least we touched base on it. I know we discussed at length about, the site visits, and I like the way you termed that, for site visits. So I really agree with everything that you went over, especially the site visit part. I guess that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, concerns, Clayton, Gloria?
I'm looking at the, well, I didn't think the whole thing needs to be revamped was particularly helpful. Just saying. Let me see. Oh, yeah. City council making the final decisions. That's what should be kept the same, but that's not a thing, right?
It's not up for discussion. Yeah, the city council,
I was gonna say, don't they already have?
the city council has declared that they will be making the final decision, and yeah, we can't change that.
They've
I
always made the
guess I don't
final decision.
understand. It says scoring results should be provided in more detail. I'm not sure what, if I could get an example of that, it would help.
I was thinking in terms of, we published, I think we published just like summary scores for each agency. And it may, I can't remember honestly, but I think it was just the total score. And so it wouldn't be that hard to maybe put it by category or something where it shows them just a little bit more information about which category they got points in and which they didn't. Something like that.
Okay, no, I'm looking at you're right. Yeah,
Now, is that individualized or is it just posted for everybody?
In the background and amongst the board members, we have a spreadsheet. So what we see at the board meetings is a big spreadsheet. You can tell who said what and all that. But as far as putting it on the internet or whatever, then we just summarize it.
Okay.
Yeah.
well, they have a copy of the scoring criteria.
Yeah, so we just
Yeah.
did a couple of comments, like they would rather see more detail on their individual score so that they can see where they're falling short, for example.
Yeah, that would be definitely very, very beneficial. Because y'all deliberate and based on the different category criteria and everything, but we really don't know as an agency what it was that caused you to rate it a certain way versus another way for other agencies.
Yeah.
So it would definitely be very beneficial to know exactly where we need to make improvements. On our
Well,
presentation.
that makes, I don't know how anybody else feels, but that sounds reasonable to me. Because, if one board member scores an agency is high and the someone else scores it as low, that's a pretty big difference. If it's medium or something, yeah, but something like that ought to be discussed among the board members at least before they and this might be getting too much into the nitty gritty of what we do, but that should be addressed, I think, before we post any kind of scores to,
Mhm. Well,
I
that's
mean-
something we can do. Like, that's just a spreadsheet thing, so, yeah.
what's a spread? I lost you. What's a spreadsheet
Oh,
thing?
I gather, the board members turn the scores into me and I make that big spreadsheet. So we can
Right.
just make it more available in some format that, makes it usable. So. we can-
Right, but you hear what I'm saying, right? If one board member, you use the criteria, if you're trying to be as unbiased as possible, you know, and you got this criteria and one board member scores it as high and another board member scores it as low, then there should be some discussion about that.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem, you know, with the various agencies looking at, you know, my rationale for why I scored the way I did.
Right.
You know, so maybe we could just turn in the actual scoring sheet.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we can look at, so.
Yeah, right. No, it's not, I don't mean to, you know, to try to solve that particular issue right now, but I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, and that's a good timing. We can also talk about it in August when we do the board orientation.
Okay.
Just to get into more detail when more people are here, but yeah, it sounds like that's something I plan on doing.
I think it also would help make adjustments to the application for next year. So, you know, as things come about, you know, maybe there are some additional questions that need to be asked on the application that you're not asking, you know,
Yeah.
coming up. So if you get that feedback and you know, okay, well, what additional questions should the board be asking on the application? So you have that information when you make your decision.
I do apologize, but I have to make it clear that the citizens' comment period is over, so only board members can speak. I apologize.
Thank you for doing that. Sorry. I should have.
Well, it's an open meeting.
Yeah.
Any other questions, concerns on that particular item?
I had a question, Carol. What are your thoughts on adding the points for agencies, adding points for agencies who are not primarily funded by a parent company? Do you have, like, the staff have thoughts on that specific bullet?
For that, honestly, as far as city staff go, we're leaning toward that, what am I trying to say? Looking at the needs served instead of looking at the resources of the agency. I kind of see it as that same issue. It is certainly, let me think. I mean, I think the board could set that as a criteria. I don't know. I mean, I'm a little torn because the direction that I've seen to be going in is specifically to consider all agencies to be equal. So I get a little torn in, like, if y'all set that as a criteria, is city council gonna think that it should not be? No, but then on the other hand, you're a whole board, you can set some criteria too. So if the board really is strongly wanting to do that, I'm coming around to, you know, we can put that in there. We can say, so we could basically add points if it's an organization that does not have a parent company. But it's gonna be, I mean, like, to me, it's a little hard to define. Because I look at, like, I don't know, Habitat, like, it's a big company, like everybody has heard of it, it's national,
It's big.
but it doesn't, it's not like it has a parent company, it's just a company. It's just a big nonprofit. You know, and CASA is kind of a big nonprofit, but they're not like, they don't have a parent company, they don't have, so, like, I don't know how to.
Well, which one has a parent company? Can you give an example?
The example that was given was like, they said educational systems, churches, and national organizations. And I'm thinking of, what was the one? I'm drawing a blank. It was the one that does statewide services for abused children or something like that.
Oh, yeah, Corn appointed special advocate for Central Texas?
No,
No, all right.
we didn't end up funding, or they, that doesn't make any sense. We funded everybody. I can't remember.
That's
So,
all right, that's all right, you know.
I'm struggling with how we would draw the line. Like, for example, some organizations like, that are run through the school district, we would have to ask them many more questions about their funding stream to find out if they're funded by the school district. You know, or if they have other big grants, like, I don't know how to work with it very well, I guess is my thing. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling all over this answer.
No, it's okay. I mean, I asked because you did say earlier that council directed us to treat everyone as equals. That's why I wanted to ask that question. So thank you for the info that you were able to give.
Okay. Merciful.
Yeah, because if council told us to treat everybody the same, I mean, we might as well take the guidance. 'Cause-
Well, it's not council that's telling you to treat everybody the same specifically, that is city staff.
Oh,
And that's our interpretation of what went on and some of the comments that were received overall as part of the process last year.
okay.
So for example, we had board members making comments like, well, this one's really well funded, why should we give them money? And what feedback we received from the agencies was like, hey, you don't know how much our need is based on how much funding we have. And so we heard that several times from agencies, and so I'm bringing it forward as like city staff recommends that we treat
Got it.
everybody.
Okay, any other questions, concerns, or anything on that? Okay, we're gonna move to item number 8, the reports. I've received any updates from board members on any activities since the last meeting. Does the board have any updates for the group?
And just FYI, this is an item that has to be on the agenda. It doesn't really make sense for this board, so let's just have it.
Okay, so no reports. Item number 9, future agenda items. Board members may provide requests for discussion items for a future agenda in accordance with the board's approved bylaws. No further discussion can be held related to topics proposed until they are posted on a future agenda in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Does any board member want to request an item for a future agenda? Nope, didn't know what I knows, okay. So we will move on to the last item. Question and answer session with the press and public. So now if you do have more concerns.
All the concern I have, and it's happened multiple times, is having a quorum for you guys. I mean, I've been to at least 3 meetings, and at least 2 of them have been canceled because either we didn't have a chair, because y'all are doing the hybrid meeting. So, this is a public meeting, so if anybody wanted to come and listen in, then you end up canceling because you don't have a person here.
Yeah.
Or you don't have a quorum. So, I mean, that's obviously something that y'all will have to work on when you as board members, but that is a concern I have. And then you have that one resignation, so it's kind of limiting the, when you have a quorum or when you may not have a quorum. So that would be just my actions.
So some concerns on quorum.
And when we want to ask the online. See if they have anything.
Oh, yeah. Any online concerns, questions, anything like that? Clayton, Gloria, Joanna, anything? Tab?
No, sir.
No, I just want to backtrack just a tad and add something to the agenda, and that's about the scoring system. About what when we have more other board members here, to ask about whether or not to just submit the various 25 points for this, 20 points for that, 10 point, to submit that, and just how much information one would want to divulge as to, well, I mean, it should be self-explanatory if you're using the criteria about why, if they've been out there less than 2 years, then, they get docked a point, some points. So I just, because the points, that's where we got into problems last year is the scoring system. So, I'd like to kind of put that out there for some future agenda, somewhere along the line.
We can put that on your August agenda. You'll have a meeting in mid-August for orientation, and we'll put that on there.
Okie dokie.
Okay, so that's the next meeting, August 17th.
Yes. We have an applicants workshop in the middle of that, but that's not a board meeting
Yeah, the 23rd.
or the 29th.
So let's go. People that talk.
They should be able to, so anybody online should be able to raise your hand if you want to talk. I'm not assuming that at this point. I'll go ahead and allow you to talk.
Warren, did you have any additional comments, questions?
No, I have nothing to add.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. We're good.
Okay, so I think we should be good. Okay. So thank you, everybody, for showing up, members of the public and board members. Thank you for having a quorum today. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
I second.
Gloria's motion, Joanna's second. So the motion is. Oh, we have to, all those in favor of adjourning?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Yep, okay. So we are adjourned as of 7:23 PM on June 8th, 2023. All right, guys, we'll see you guys in
Okay.
August.
Thanks.